All right. Hello, Meekhawks. This is Michael Heiss coming at you for a rare solo episode with my guest coming up here of the Decentralized Revolution podcast, episode 129. Sorry about the cancellation of our last guest. Had some technical problems ahead of that episode. We'll be looking to bring Jason Bassler back on from the Free Thought Project here ASAP, hopefully next week. So before I bring my guest on, got a couple of big announcements. You may have gotten in your email from the caucus earlier, and that is that I have actually resigned from the chair position of Mises PAC. And I'm doing this so that I can jump over to the Michael Rectenwald campaign and manage that campaign. So I am putting my money where my mouth is. I'm going all in and managing that campaign. I truly believe that he is the best candidate in the race. I think he is the one with the best message, the best depth of knowledge, the one who is most able to articulate the principles of liberty in the current time that we're in, which is a time of great tumult. And I think we need somebody who can get in front of as many people as possible, somebody who has this support of Dave Smith to get on the big platforms and speak to all the issues of the day in a deep manner. And so he is clearly, in my opinion, the best candidate in the race. And so I intend to give him everything I've got to make that a reality. So yeah, putting my money where my mouth is, resigned, and Jeff Douglas is coming with me. He also has resigned from the board of Mises PAC and is jumping over to be the national coordinator for the Rectenwald campaign. So, we will be reaching out. We'll be doing all the things that we've pretty much done for years now through the caucus and trying to get our people out to DC. We are finalizing and working on our LNC slate to preserve the takeover. We are working on our bylaws changes, which, as I've mentioned in the past, should be pretty substantial. We're coming for that regional system, no more democracy on top of democracy, and looking to make some big changes there. So lots of stuff to do in DC in May. So, mark it on your calendar. It's the last weekend of May, national convention. We're going to the belly of the beast in DC and, reclaiming the reset. So, I got on my computer ahead of this stream, and how important this cycle is really dawned on me when I opened up antiwar.com. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. Israeli president, no innocent civilians in Gaza. Israeli military says it's in formation to strike Gaza City. I mean, it's just a horror show. Israeli veteran 95 rallies troops to erase Palestinian children. State Department memo, no Gaza de-escalation talk. It's just a horror show of what's going on over with that conflict. And it just reminds me of how important of a position that the libertarians are going to play in this race. I mean, it's basically us and Cornel West who are going to have any consistent anti-war stance in this race. I mean, you have seen the gains that the right has made in the anti-war space with respect to Ukraine basically evaporate overnight with this conflict in Israel. And so we need to be there to hold them accountable. I mean, even RFK, who I've liked on a number of positions as a Democrat, came out with just an atrocious stance, calling for us to fund this war in a long-term stance against Palestine. And I mean, it's just crazy. So, I mean, the whole right, even RFK is kind of the breakout independent candidate, doesn't have it right on this issue. So it's literally just us and Cornel West. So we have a very, very important role to play in this mission, in this race. And, we have to do our best to do that. So please get DC, the DC convention, end of May 2024 on your calendars. And let's put the guy in there who can best do the job. So with that, I'm going to bring up my guest. I'll do a hard pivot here. I'll bring up my guest. We are talking to Nathan Polsky tonight. Nathan is running for chair of the Libertarian Party of Texas. You've been running for what, about a month now? 2 months, something like that?
About a month and a half, 2 months, yeah.
Month and a half. Okay, cool, man. So why don't you fill the audience in on who you are, where you what your background is, what your origin story is. I have here a graphic from, I forget what year it is. I'm sorry about that, but where we actually endorse you for your run for city council. And most recently, you bailed me out pretty good with the Take Human Action tour. We had our trainers for that tour back out like a week before the event or something like that. And you came through and had a training ready to go. So I really appreciate that. And I appreciate your run. So tell us about that and some of your background.
Sure. So my background's in IT, project management, software delivery, managing small teams, large teams, very task oriented. I got into the Libertarian Party 2019. I will take it back. I first voted Libertarian in 2016. Didn't really pay attention to politics before then. In 2016, I saw Trump and Hillary were on the ballot. I said, this is absurd. There has to be another option. What's going on here? I saw Gary Johnson's name. I said, okay, who's this Gary Johnson guy? He's libertarian. Okay, what is libertarian? Yeah, that sounds like me. That's kind of where I was for most of my life. So I looked more into it, started donating to National, got onto their mailing list. And then in 2019, December 2019, I decided to throw my hat into local politics. So I started attending the local city council meetings, seeing what was going on with their taxes. A lot of excess spending was going on. I said, okay, this isn't right. Threw my name in, started attending the county Libertarian Party meetings, introduced myself. And then that's when I heard about the Mises Caucus. So I was already involved. I was already looking into, bottom up style of politics, where the place we have the most effect is going to be at that local level. So Mises Caucus, worked really well with me on that. I ran against a hard Republican, hard Democrat that first year. They both had the endorsements of their parties. So if you weren't one of them, you weren't getting any sight. The second year I ran against an incumbent 40-year Republican Party refused to give him their endorsement and recommendation because I was more conservative and more fiscally responsible than he was. So they tried giving me the recommendation, and they actually did at one of their GOP meetings. But they then found out after the fact that I was an officer in the county party, and they gave me two options. They said either A, they can take back their nomination because they do not grant recommendations to officers within another party, or B, I could step down as a county officer. And I said,
hard bargain there.
And I'm like, right. And I'm like, well, I'm a libertarian, the party of principles. I have principles. So no, thank you for your recommendation, but I'm not going to rescind my officer status just so I can receive the recommendation from the GOP. So that year I got 26% of the vote. The Democrats were also recommending the incumbent. So you had a lot of people that were in the GOP that saw that and said, well, why are the Democrats recommending the Republican? Why are they putting his name on their slate? You had then half the Republican Party was kind of split between, do we only ever vote for a Republican, or can we actually vote for this guy who's not a Republican? So that's how that year went. And then the third year, I think that was the one that I had the endorsement photo for, ran against it was an open seat for city council, but the individual I was running against was the former chair of the planning and zoning committee within the city, had been there for 10 years, well entrenched within the city government and politics, also a Republican. But you also, again, had the DNC, the Democrats, put out a flyer with all of their recommendations and stuck his face on it. So again, it's just a one-party system. You've got the Republicans, you've got the Democrats. They all, they say, well, I'm a Republican or a Democrat, but they just want the same thing. And it's control of government, pushing their policies. The Republicans say that, well, we're the party of freedom. Well, they're not. There was one guy that was on the city council that I actually fully respected, or as far as who was fighting for some form of liberty and trying to fight back on raising taxes and cutting excess spending. The rest just kind of bowed and gave in to whatever the mayor or whatever the city staff presented to them.
I'm curious about your experience, like when you started going to meetings and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
In my experience, once you kind of put the phone down and you start going to the meetings and stuff like that, and you show your face, you start talking to people, opportunities open up, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and things that you didn't see coming are there for you to navigate and kind of be effective with. One, how big of a city are we talking here? Like, how many people are there? And two, have you had any of those kinds of experiences where kind of just by showing up and putting yourself out there,
Mm-hmm.
opportunities to actually do something presented themselves to you?
Sure. So City of Allen is last census was 108,000 individuals. In 2020 for the local elections, the city secretary said that was the largest turnout she'd ever seen for candidates. So there was 3 positions that were available, and there was at least 5 people running in each position.
No easy races for you, dude.
No, none of them were easy. She said prior to that, at most, they may have 2 or 3, maybe 1 person running in each place. We also had one of the largest turnouts for voters. So I think that was 13, maybe 14% turnout. Most years it's under 10%. So a couple hundred votes is really all it need.
Was there like I'm just curious, I'm sorry to cut you off, but was there like a controversy? Like, what do you think accounted for that?
It's 2020, so we had COVID. So we had,
people
so we had,
mailed.
so we had people that turned out for mailers. There was one lady that was on city council. She was the only Democrat. She had just served her first term, was running for re-election, and a lot of the Republicans did not want a Democrat in office there. So they came out in full force, had a big slate of people that they were endorsing and recommending to run against her and to run in the other positions, because the Democrats came out with their own candidates in each one of those. And they said, well, we don't want Democrats on the city council. So it was pretty heated. There was a lot of name calling. There was a lot of sour tactics that were just being had across the board there.
So Texas is a state where everything is partisan, right? Because there's some states where, or even towns where the local level races like this are nonpartisan, but it sounds like
it's still nonpartisan.
People just know.
No, so standing in front of the polls, I mean, even though it's a nonpartisan race, standing at the polls, the first thing someone says when they walk up to you is, are you a Republican or Democrat? They don't care what your policies are. They don't care what your name is. They don't care if you are more fiscally responsible than a Republican or more social liberal than a Democrat. These are people that they show up to the polls because they're told to. They're vote red no matter who, vote blue no matter who, and that's all they care about. Even though there's no party affiliation next to the name when they walk in.
But with such a low turnout, I mean, you had said that like a few hundred votes can win it. Is that, did I hear you right? Or a few hundred votes makes the difference? Or is it
either way? I mean, so we had this election this year, there was a total of 9,000 or 10,000 votes total between each candidate. So, you're looking at one candidate receiving 5,200, another candidate receiving 4,900, and that's all that it takes. I know we had a school board election, and one of the places there was 4 or 5 candidates that were running, and it was less than 100 votes that decided it.
I see a comment that says, Lord, I hope hotness is not a driving force behind people voting. Got to tell you, if Lauren Boebert was like in my district and there was like top donor gets a trip to the movies with Lauren Boebert, probably supporting Lauren Boebert. So then what was the outcome of these races for you? Like, how well did you do and what did you learn?
So what I learned is that even in nonpartisan races, there's still partisan politics being had. So after my first attempt at running, I really started reaching out to city staff, city employees, other groups that were not directly aligned with a specific party. So one group may call them conservative, another group may have a different name, but getting to know these folks who are at the local level, that they may not ever show up to a libertarian meeting because they may say they're libertarian, they don't vote that way. They don't attend libertarian meetings. They attend Republican meetings, or they would attend Democrat meetings. But getting to know people in these different parties, you can find champions, or you can find individuals that realize and recognize that at the local level, the party affiliation you can almost ignore, especially when you have 2, maybe 3 people running. There's no party affiliation next to the name. So it's really, can you get the message out? Can you reach those specific groups? And you don't have to worry about someone ticking a box because it says R, because it says D next to the name.
Do you have any examples of this in your experience? I mean, you don't have to name names, but like of this sort of thing happening, because it's something that I've been saying for a long time, is that we as libertarians, because we're the underdog, because we're the third party, because we're so far behind, that it's incumbent upon us to be the ones to walk into the Republican meeting or to walk into the Democrat meeting and be that catalyst, and kind of get people to work with us to fill in the cracks that the establishment of their party are not paying attention to.
Yeah, no, there's a local conservative group in Allen that their whole idea was to get conservatives elected into school board and city council, and then also help out with the county races. And after the first run, I got involved with them. I met a lot of them. A lot of them ended up liking and supporting me, even though they weren't libertarians. They block walked for me. They passed my name out. They handed out flyers for me. I got invited to a few of their events as well. And I think that was a great avenue outside of just focusing on the party. If you're just focusing on, we're only going to recruit people and look for help at libertarian meetings, well, libertarian meetings are small. You get a handful of people, and when you're talking about a county meeting, especially in Texas, the counties are big, that people are spread out. And so it's 15, 20 minutes just to get out of my town. And we're talking about people that may be 45 minutes to an hour away in some cases, and trying to get them to come out and block walk or hand out stuff. That gets hard. So finding those groups that are local, there's a couple Patriot groups that are reached out to as well, some 2A groups. I tried reaching out to some of the local realtors as well to say, look, I'm your candidate if this is what you want. You want fiscal responsibility, you want property rights, you want 2A. These are the things that the city is responsible for. All this social stuff, all these social liberties, that comes with just more freedom. So not really the responsibility of the city to mandate who can do what or who can't do what. Leave that up to the private businesses and the private individuals. And let's focus on the budget, because the city and school board are going to have the highest taxes in Texas.
Yeah, stuff like this is why I really there's a strain of people in the LP who are hyper partisan for the LP. I call them party justice warriors, and I really think that's ugly and does not help us at all from the position, like the weak position that we're in compared to the Republicans and Democrats. Because like these opportunities are out there, like you just described. Like you crossed the aisle and then they helped you door knock. Forest Mommy, who's in the chat right now, running for city council in Colorado. I think she just got the Republican Party to support her, and she like doubled her door knocking and phone banking efforts overnight with one thing like that. These opportunities are out there, and yes, obviously we're ideologically partisan. We are libertarians, but when we're politically partisan, I really think it shuts off conversations that we need to be having. And I don't think it's a very attractive pitch to people. It's basically like, hey, you have all your in-group in the GOP or whatever. I need you to leave that behind, join us. You're not allowed to vote for Republicans anymore. There might not even be a libertarian on the ballot for you. So what? Oh, well, and you're a bad person if you vote for anybody. I mean, it's just crazy.
Right.
And these kinds of conversations, I think, break that down and develop, what I've been talking about for a long time is trust. I think we focus so much on the principles, so much on the ideas that we kind of forget sometimes about what makes people tick. And, if logic and reason was enough to get people in mass to swing our way, we'd have won already. You know what I mean? Like we would have won already. But it seems to me that there's other things that the other premises that people act out before logic and reason. Like, do they trust you? Do they like you? And if we can infiltrate on that level, then we can swing them.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. That's the idea.
So what was the best turnout like that you had for your races? And then we can go into some of the LP Texas stuff.
Sure. So the best turnout was probably this last one. It was, I got 26%, almost 27% of the vote. And again, this is in a race where you had Republicans and Democrats both pushing for my opponent, who also works for the Fed. So there's some issues there that we probably shouldn't go into too deeply, but they elected a Fed.
Wow. And then 27% of the race, was that a head to head? Was that a?
It was just a two-way race. Yeah, just the two of us.
Okay. Yeah, not bad. Not bad. Something to build off for sure. Okay, so you're running for chair of the LP Texas, and why does the Libertarian Party of Texas need you? What problems are you there to solve? I can tell you one thing that I found funny is I went to lptexas.org, and the first thing that smacks me in the face is a belly dancing chick in a hilariously low res photo. And you guys are promoting an event, Freedom Folly, Sex Work, Rights, and Respect, advocacy through the art of burlesque. So looks like LP Texas is putting on a burlesque show. Not knocking it, just a little weird having just gone from antiwar.com and all the Hamas butchery and IDF butchery, and then go over that and think like, yeah, that's what animates me. But yeah, so what's going on in the LP Texas, and what problems need solving?
So I think a lot of what's going on right now that I'm looking to solve is the current direction, the current vision for the party. Talking about running for local office, running for city council, running for school board, that's where libertarians have the best chance of winning. That's where they can get in front of the highest percentage of voters who are going to be able to vote for them. If you're running for state offices, if you're running for even county offices, getting out in front of as many voters as possible is extremely hard. And especially as a libertarian, when we just typically don't have that much support, even in our own party, of getting people out as volunteers to help. So shifting the party's focus and assisting local candidates, assisting counties. Texas has 254 counties in the state. Yeah, it's a lot of counties. It's more than twice any other state. And because Texas feels, Texas is built on local leadership, local counties, controlling everything. The problem with that is we have 254 counties in the state, and not every county has the technology, has the experience, the knowledge to stand up a website, to create events, to create meetups. Some of them get affiliated. I've talked to several now that they went through the affiliation process and they got the handbook that says, congratulations, you're affiliated. And that was the last they heard from the state. They don't know what to do with the site. They don't know what to do to get more recruitment, to reach out to these local organizations, these local groups, to coalition with them at the local level. So creating an infrastructure within the state party to empower those local candidates, to provide the support for those counties, to say, hey, you're a brand new county, you don't know how to create a website, we can make one for you. Let's get you a county website up and running. Hand you the keys once it's done, so you can manage it yourself. We'll train you on it. We'll host it for you. We'll take care of it for you to give you the tools that you need to be successful. More training sessions for counties, for candidates, cross county campaign management. Get some actual training sessions for some campaign managers as well to help candidates out with, here's how you run a successful campaign. What type of campaign do you want to run? And then just go all in on giving that support to the local groups. So that's the primary focus that I want to go in on.
I would recommend, if you haven't, talk to Hannah, the chair of Colorado, because they are going hard in the paint on institutionalizing Project Decentralized Revolution, essentially. And that kind of sounds like more or less where you're going is because I totally agree. And I don't understand the culture of the party that has persisted to this point of running in unwinnable races almost exclusively, when I was writing the white paper document for the Project Decentralized Revolution strategy, I used the party's election data from 2022 to make a point that I'm still pretty shocked by. It's a data point that I really want to pound home, is that the vast majority of libertarians that seek office run for positions higher than the local level. And then as such, you get, I think it was 2 or 3 victories at the county level out of that in 2022. But then once you isolate for the number of candidates who run for local, all of a sudden the win percentage shoots up to 33% or some insane number that nobody would have ever guessed, that is in an environment where that's probably the floor of how effective we could be, when you consider that there isn't a culture of training, there isn't a culture of utilizing software, there isn't a culture of door knocking and running effective campaigns. So if the worst we can do is 33%, what happens when the vast majority of libertarians are running for local and we have a culture of all of these things? So I hope you're plugged in with the whole voter gravity thing that just got rolled out by National.
Yeah, I haven't signed up for it yet, but I did see it was there. I was actually arguing with some people on X about they were claiming the RNC would have access to all of our data. And I'm like, you do not understand how these platforms work at all, do you? It's like, no, it's all siloed. This would be our data. No one else has access to it. All you're doing is just causing more issues for National and whatnot. I think it's an excellent tool. This last year and the year before, I made my own little free third-party app that I could try and use for block walking, and it was a nightmare. So having something like voter gravity that can handle that can get candidates tied in with lists so they can distribute those lists to other people who are block walking for them, to show you the routes. I went on a couple walks with some of the GOP that were trying to push some of the don't vote for these bonds type things in a couple precincts. And they had those tools. It wasn't voter gravity, it was another tool. And using one of those, it was so simple. You could see what everybody else in your team was doing. There was no guesswork. I'm like, I wish we had this. But it costs money, and it's not usually cheap. So having National with that voter gravity assistance, that's a game changer.
Yeah, it's something I've been wanting to see for a long time. Because again, now that the Reno reset is over, the whole thing for me at least has changed into, and I said this the whole time. We took over the party, and then do what with it. It wasn't just
Mhm.
to own the bad guys. I know it was for some people, but and I'm not going to lie and say I took no satisfaction from that, but it was to roll this out and institutionalize this strategy. And I think the voter gravity thing is a big part of that.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, if we can make that a norm within the party, I think that win percentage can go up again.
Mhm.
So what is the LP Texas party look like now? Like, what are their focuses, and what needs change essentially?
If you were to look at the party right now and try and pinpoint what the party's actual focus is, I don't see one. I know in our legislative years, when this House and Senate get back into session, they're always trying to kick us off the ballot. They're trying to implement new laws and regulations to turn the LP Texas into a primary party. They're trying to make it more difficult for our candidates to get on the ballot. So we're spending a lot of time and effort at that level just fighting those battles, which prevents us from, focusing on local elections, focusing on things that really matter.
Got a question in the chat here. Sorry, Facebook user, you must be in the stream that's in the Facebook group, and the permissions make it so that I can't tell who the hell you are. Does the Texas LP have any relationship or experience with the Texas nationalist movement?
Yes. So I know there's a Texas event. I think it's November 14th. It's the same weekend we have our next select meeting. So we do have some folks that I believe are interested in going down there and maybe getting a booth or something to take a look at that. We had Texas Nationalist Movement come out to one of our select meetings. I believe that was the one we had in Abilene earlier this year. And they gave a little speech and just a presentation on it. I mean, we're libertarians, so it's trying to herd cats here. So we're split on, do we do this? Do we not do this? Maybe we need to sit down and talk about it. And that kind of goes into one of my other key points is focusing on coalitions, single item issues. Right now, we have this atmosphere where somebody sees the name of an organization or the name of a movement or who they're associated with, and they say, well, I don't want to work with them because their platform is X. Okay, well, maybe they're really big into Texas. Maybe they're really big into school choice. We don't have to go full in and fully support everything they talk about. But if we can work together and get something on the general ballot, maybe we should.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. Is my assumption is that the leadership of the current Libertarian Party of Texas would see a group like that, like the Texas separatist movement, and kind of wince and say, oh no, that's too much. Some people really get squeamish on like secession and things like that. Is that are you that hardcore? Is that a group that you would like to work with?
I don't know if I would want to work with that specific group, or if we do work with them, then okay, let's make sure that there's a very fine line between what we're working on. If the goal is to get Texas on the ballot, then that should be the goal. All of the nuance that goes around it, leave that up to the individual parties to discuss and to present. But even LP Texas, we have it in our platform that we support that. So I don't see why we can't.
Jacob Bradley would like to know, why are you pretending that you are high class with that piano in the background?
That's because Jacob Bradley is jealous.
I can see it. But yeah, man, no, I think because if I remember correctly, I think that Texas separatist movement is something like are they like a Christian nationalist kind of thing? But again, this is assuming that's the case. This is where the issue stuff really comes into play and is important.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to endorse being a Christian nationalist group in order to say this should be on the ballot and we support secession as a party, because it's the right of self-determination is paramount. And for smaller groups to create political units on their own. This is a very Misesian idea, and we shouldn't back down from it. And am I right in saying that this is something that the LP of Texas currently would be like, ugh,
As far as the current leadership, I would say it may be split. I mean, there are certain individuals within the party that are like, no, we can't secede. We shouldn't be having these discussions. And then you've got others that are like, well, it's in the platform. This is what we support as libertarians, freedom of association. So getting it on the ballot is a start. And that will then let the Texas government know, do enough people actually support this?
Awesome. All right. Well, I know you've got another meeting coming up that you got to prepare for. So how can people support you and where can people follow you?
So my website's nathanforliberty.com. If you can shoot me $5, $10, $20, whatever. I plan on making the rounds through Texas, trying to get it to as many counties and many groups as I can. Texas is a big state, and that requires a lot of driving. So some gas money would be highly appreciated. You can also follow me on Twitter, Nate the ANCAP, and just see what all is going on.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Really appreciate your time. And when is that convention? And is there any deadlines for people to sign up for the State Libertarian Party or anything like that?
Sure. So in the state of Texas, we have 3 convention dates, unlike some other states. The first one, the first 2 are going to be in March. I want to say February or March. I think it's March. The second Tuesday, so it's going to be March 12th and then March 16th. Of next year. So the 12th will be the precinct convention. If you want to participate in anything else, you must attend that. You cannot vote in the primaries beforehand. You cannot sign any petitions to get stuff on the ballots for the primaries, so that will affiliate you with the Republicans or the Democrats in the state of Texas. And then that Saturday, you can then attend the county convention meeting. And at the county convention, you can try to become a delegate to go to the state convention, which will be in April. It'll be April 12th through the 14th in Corpus Christi next year. And at that point, we'll be nominating and selecting any candidates for state offices as well as new party leadership. So if you want to come out and support me, make sure you attend your precinct, attend your county, become a delegate, and get to the state convention next year.
Yeah, I want to drive home what you said about, about do not vote in the primary if you want to get involved in the Libertarian Party of Texas. And really, there's not, in my opinion, there's not too much of a reason for you to. I mean, RFK is no longer in the primary for a Democrat. And, RFK is now a war hawk on Mexico and Israel. I don't think that the Republican Party establishment's instinct on foreign policy has actually changed. I think the base moved away on Ukraine and they kind of followed with that. But then the second something happens, we're hawks again, you know? So, what are you really getting there? So, don't vote in the primary, join the Libertarian Party of Texas. And that convoluted system of 3 different things is not the Texas party's fault. That is actually state law bullshit. So, so unfortunate, but it's the real ones that make it through that trial. So if you want to support Nathan, make sure you sign up with the party and get out there.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, man. All right. Well, really appreciate you guys joining us tonight. And then I'm going to reiterate to go to wrecktheregime.com to support Michael Rechtenwald. We are in the middle of recruiting state campaign coordinators for the campaign. So if you want to help us whip delegates, if you want to help us set up events or help us get media attention in your state, please go to wrecktheregime.com and send us an email. And if you want to, support Project Decentralized Revolution, then go to takehumanaction.com, sign up for the Mises Caucus there. We have just spent I think about $10,000 or something like that on local level candidates around the country. We have volunteers phone banking for local level candidates around the country coming up next month in November. If you want to join the phone banking effort, then please go to takehumanaction.com and sign up and let us know, and we will be reaching out. So thank you guys again. We'll be back next week, hopefully with Jason Bassler from the Free Thought Project.